All right. Peace and blessings. Hakia me here, Success Scholar, tuning in. Definitely wanted to do this brief discussion. I'm going to share a little bit from us. Just want to give a heads up. Many people know that, this film is coming out, Judas and the Black Messiah. I'm sorry, what is it? Judas and the Messiah. Judas and the Messiah. And I wanted to just add on to that conversation because I am going to see the film, and I know that people had discussions about whether we should see the film or not, and I was able to call in to the Carl Nelson show just yesterday with Baba Amafika and Dr. Claude Anderson and. Fred Hampton Jr. was on earlier, and he was just on briefly, but I had a question for him because Baba Amafika was on first, and I had a question because there are many who were discussing that we should boycott the film, et cetera, because there's not a African American in the title. So, and as the main in the film. So, but I don't think it's that serious, and we need to know this history, and we need to get the word out about the legacy of the counterintelligence program, and as well as the legacy of Chairman Fred Hampton. Now, with that being said, brothers and sisters, I wanted to show you all this particular book. Let me hold it up, and I have two books. I can't recall the other one, but I was looking for that. But this one is Racial Matters, the FBI secret file. Let me see if y'all can see that. I'm trying to hold that. Wait a minute. Shoot, can you see that? The FBI secret file on Black America from 1960 to 1972. 1960 to 1972 by Kenneth O'Reilly. Now, let me just read a little bit of that. And I want people to know that I've discovered some, and I haven't seen the movie, but according to something I read, that apparently the agent provocateur, the informant, the Judas in this movie was a former or someone that was in trouble. I'm sorry, with the criminal justice system, and allegedly, in terms of he was allowed to snitch or somehow give intel to these police agencies, FBI or whomever, so that he could go free and get paid, which ultimately led to the murder of Fred Hampton. Now, let me just read this where I wanted to start. And this talks about the first chapter. Well, let me just read some of the chapters here, of course. Civil rights, civil liberties, the Negro question, origins of private war, the Kennedys and the voting litigation campaign, from free bus to bat bomb, and the Albany movement, the Black Dream, Red Menace, the pursuit of Dr. Martin Luther King, Mississippi burning, Freedom Summer 1964, the Klan Wars, the Ku Klux Klan and the good name of white America, white backlash, LBJ and the politics of the urban riots, Black hate, Chapter 8, community surveillance and counterintelligence. And the next chapter, Only Good Panther, the pursuit of the Black Panther Party for self-defense. So, and citizens radicals, Hoover, Nixon, and the surveillance state. So let me just expand or read this. Okay, this is important. By the time John F. Kennedy entered the White House into the White House in 1961, Hoover had located his own grievances against black people in the 4 decades since the World War I era. Just recall that Hoover also, the FBI was started during the Garvey time, and they did the same tactics then under Hoover. So this is saying that he learned some things. When he first brushed against their demand for justice and equality, the director had learned a great deal about racial matters since 1919. That's what I was about to say. It's close to when the Garvey movement got started. But little about racial justice. He had learned that the Negroes' fight for equality threatened his personal racial preferences and fight and his bureau's institutional interests and political objectives. He had learned that blacks who struggled to make the nation live up to his democratic ideals represent a threat to his America that one day might rival the threat posed by his dreaded communists. And he had learned that nearly every administration from Wilson to Eisenhower condoned his all-embracing definitions of subversion. But he had also learned that there was no American consensus on how to deal with the gathering struggle for black equality. So at the very start in 1919, he rarely acted forcefully on his feelings about the Negro question. He proceeded cautiously, nurturing his grievances and studying the battleground like Machiavelli's prince, preparing for the war in times of peace. So that's the J. Edgar Hoover, where they have an FBI building named after him. FBI building named after him. But what else I wanted to read? But let's see. Okay, still talking about Hoover. This is something else a little later on in the book, page two something. The FBI director found that the Great Society, tolerant of surveillance even before the riots and the anti-war movement, met by President Johnson to imagine dissent as a gigantic conspiracy led by his enemies. Washington legend credits Johnson for remarking how he would rather have Hoover inside the tent pissing out than outside the tent pissing in. Perhaps the best proof of that LBJism lies in the volume of names submitted to the FBI for clearance during the Great Society years. Even the president's grandson received a check. At his first birthday party, his grandmother joked with the crest scores about the White House pass around her toddler's neck. The clearest hand included a letter from J. Edgar Hoover himself saying nothing derogatory was found in the files of the FBI of Patrick Lyndon Nugent. Johnson's people so often sent Hoover people into the files far more serious work than Midrell Stiegel, who served as a designated White House recipient of FBI's reports, though the administration abused services. A low-profile, tight-lipped employee named the Sphinx, Spiegel reportedly went on the FBI payroll at the time. J. Edgar Hoover had people everywhere that they secretly paid. It was a low-level profile, tight-lipped employee. Okay. The real name check person on the staff was Marvin Watkins, one of the president's closest aides and a man who had much faith in the integrity of the FBI. So, and one thing I read in another book, and that's probably in the other book that I had, was that these people were like spying on little old white women that were selling bake sales to finance political organizations. So you have to understand, and if we look at what happened on January the 6th, we realize that although there were many reports on what would happen in the nation's capital, that there was this hands-off approach. The same thing happened years ago, and if any of you have seen the Atlanta bombing movie about the Olympic bombing, and what's the name, the white boy, Richard or Robert, the kind of heavy white boy that the FBI, as well as other agencies, kind of try to railroad into to say that he did it to kind of have an open and shut case. We see how bureaucracy and this fear of white nationalism could cause many things to be overlooked and leave the population vulnerable in this society. So that's what happened, according to several reports, during that particular period. They overlooked reports that this could be a white nationalist movement targeting not just the Atlanta incident, but also other incidences. So what I wanted to say is that we have to watch individuals, unfortunately, who have been incarcerated. We have to understand that you have to watch what you say. If, for instance, make sure that they're not attempting to put something on you, or, it's the same scenario of prison. They have they develop and create this mentality, even in the streets with law enforcement, where they have to, people are trying to get promoted, careers are attempting to be made. So individuals are actually creating street beefs, if you will. So, I wouldn't be surprised, if it comes out in a movie that there was some lots of coercion now. And there is another documentary on this. I believe it's about the Chicago 7, that talks more about this story. So I'm not in Chicago. I only know Sister Lita up there, my twin. But I can't speak in depth of it. But what I can speak on, I recall on several cases, in Baltimore, that there was much discussion of theories that the FBI created the Black Panther Party in Baltimore to get ahead of the curve. And many people speculate on different persons that could have been involved with that. I'm not going to, entertain that. But what I do know is that we have to watch people who, for instance, have been in jail, as well as their affiliations that they may have with law enforcement. I know that there's one, for instance, in Baltimore, that some years ago, this person, he wanted to have people to boycott me, and I was just like, wow, that's really serious. That comes right out of the FBI military police training handbook. And the sad thing is that there are some individuals that supported this, individuals like Irritated Genie and, people like Baruti, who support, and Wally Baruti out of Atlanta, who supported this known police officer and still are affiliated with this known police officer that's still in the community. And he's on YouTube. He just wrote several books or something, but he definitely is, a known police officer after doing 25 years in police. And, he's attempting and has attempted to slander the good name of Haki Ami over the years. And so I recognize him for what he is, and other people who I suspect should be able to know and see the work should know that this person is actually a Judas. It's the same scenario. And he may not be as paid because he can't do much. He's not as active. So, and this is why I had to somehow, stay straight, on a straight and narrow in the context of, where or what I'm able to, how active I'm able to be, because you have to just recognize that these people, they always around. As Brother Marcus Klein said, they always around. They were always around Garvey. Garvey had the top person, in his organization was, one of J. Edgar Hoover's person. And, even as you see in many of the Nation of Islam, that they are always, at the tops of the organization, if not the main leader, of these movements. They're always in the second or third or fourth chain of command. So I say, watch these different groups, especially if many of them were and are if they come out of prison. We have to realize that somehow they perhaps may be compromised, but definitely check them out if, for instance, they, have relationships with law enforcement. So especially this known law enforcement officer, in the city of Baltimore, in the Baltimore area. So I'm just watching this. Sometimes you have to know that you have to build in other places, and this is why, we're going to Tanzania this year, as well as South Africa, and definitely you are invited. And if they would like to send some agents there, we certainly would appreciate the contribution, because we are building a movement and educating the people and dropping books here and there and everywhere. So definitely encouraged to show up, and support. We have to build our economic base. We have to continue to build allies, the right allies, and the right movement. So definitely go check out the book and holler at me if you need some real research and not get. I mean, of course, there were many people that worked on that film, but Racial Matters, the FBI secret file on Black America. So don't let these Judases out here that are spying, on Black people and creating havoc. Don't be a victim. Don't let nobody incite you to anything, and don't let no law enforcement officers tell you to boycott Haki Ami, unjustifiably, because there's some real unemotional, unhealthy, unsuccessful people out here that have various levels of jealousy. So that's all I have. Holla to Success Scholar. I'm out. Peace.